Good evening, Cosmic Light Collective. It is so good to be in your presence again and to honor all of the collaboration that is occurring between all of you, all of us, the planet, the kingdoms of nature, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe. It is a wonderful experience of support, empathy, compassion, collaboration, and effective, productive work together on all these very different levels. I know that you are anxious to speak to us about patience, and we recognize that this topic is reappearing just in 3 months, so that we have a sense that there's something really important about patience that we need to know and become aware of as we continue our 11-year journey towards 2032. And, I've spoken to you a lot about how there are windows of opportunity with 3D human beings where there's gotta be some movement. There's gotta have something really happen, some kind of significant intervention, or you just really lose them. Their ability to believe in the soul, to trust you, to see anything beyond their pain and anguish is just lost, just in a matter of moments, because time has just been too unkind, and they can't rise above it. It just goes on too long. So, I'm starting with the real basic question of how do you really know when you're approaching that loss of patience into self-destruction, and how do you navigate so that you don't get there, right? So that it never has to go to that particular place, that there's some kind of intervention that can happen, understanding that there are so many moving parts to manifestation for a human being on this planetary body. And here are some of our other questions. How is this topic of patience different from the last time that you spoke to us about this in March? Are we revisiting patience because you sense that a lot of human beings are crossing the threshold beyond patience into depression, violence, all the rest of it? Are you seeking other levels of intervention to prevent this from happening? Are you addressing Americans only because Americans are extremely impatient, or are you addressing human beings all over the planet? And is this topic of patience coming up now because as people awaken and they move into the hard work of the journey, are they having difficulty being patient and persevering as they really take the steps, the big, long steps that need to be taken to move out of egoistic living that is harmful, painful, and truly self-defeating? So these are some of our questions for this evening, but we all very much look forward to hearing your transmission and your answers to these questions. Beloved beings, it is our pleasure to be in your company, to work with you, to work among you, to work in the midst of you, and to recognize that our collective commitment to the soul embodiment of this civilization and its continued existence on this planet is what we all work towards, what we wish for, what we hope for, what we are choosing to collectively manifest for many, many reasons, individually, on a planetary scale, from the solar, the galactic, and the universal perspectives as well. We recognize how difficult the journey can be, how taxing it can become, And we also recognize that we are not always as attentive to those who serve us as we could be. This is going to be a bit of a more personal transmission because we believe that it needs to be, and that we also need to take responsibility for just how difficult the work is and how sometimes we push, not really recognizing the toll that is asked for and the sacrifices that are offered. And in being honest about our desire to serve sometimes overwhelms our ability to pay attention to the individual needs of those who are serving us. It is not because we are oblivious as much as it is that we are committed and we are focused, and sometimes in that committed focus we lose sight of the smaller details, and those details are important. Remember that we do not live in the limitations and restrictions of your third dimensional experience. Even though many of us have had lives that had tasted and touched those experiences, that's not where we spent the bulk of our existence. And so when we enter into this more dense experience, we sometimes forget just how difficult it is to move from point A to point B. And in doing that, we place undue stresses on those who we depend upon to be our eyes and our ears. Sometimes to be the radiators of our hearts and to be our voices as well. Tonight we come to ask you to be patient with us. And we recognize that at some times our demands are greater than they could be. And that even though we are eager to achieve benchmarks, we must recognize that the way that we achieve those benchmarks must be in harmony with the level of evolution that you are at. In your presence, you have a being of supreme commitment to the evolution of the human race. One whose eyes, ears, arms, hands, and mouth has been at our complete disposal since the moment she entered the planet. Because of her enormous strength and willpower, from the moment she arrived here, we expected and considered nothing less of her than her entire being, which she was graciously and willingly giving throughout her life. When we speak of balance and harmony, when we speak of compassion and understanding, when we speak of the desire to serve from the purity of one's heart, we can truly say that is an expression of her being. She is not the only one who has this level of purity, integrity, and commitment to service. But there are not many others that share that extreme commitment, born of love, not of ego. And that's what makes this different than those who sought their own well-being over the well-being of others. Those like her who come to this planet know what they are doing when they enter. They accept the mission and they accept its consequences. And they do so willingly with an open heart. They face all of the threats and seduction that every other third-dimensional human being does. They do. But somehow, these precious few rise above all of it every single time. And they do so knowing that they are committed and connected to this higher form of their being, but they do so through the strength and the willpower of their own humanity. Through the strength and the willpower of their own humanity. We have not paid enough attention to that. In our desire, in our pure desire to assist in the evolution of the human race and the salvation of the planet, we have in some ways lost sight of those who are quite near and dear to all that we hold sacred throughout the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe. You have this experience of a retreat where you step aside, where you refuel yourself, where you regain your strength. For these individuals, we've offered them something called respite lives. 1 in 100 incarnations, where they're given a lifetime where they do not have to have massive service, where they can simply be on the planet and be restored in a human experience that supports them. Looking at it now from where we are, that's not quite enough, nor has it ever been. We are lucky that these individuals, these soul-embodied pioneers, accepted that and continued to move forward regardless of what we asked of them. We honor each of you on this call and in the hundreds of thousands of groups that are participating in our collective work. We honor each of you tonight for your commitment, for your perseverance, and for your patience with us. Because we don't get it right away. We experiment and we explore and we try our best. We ask a lot of you. We offer much in return, but we are acutely aware that we really don't pay attention to just how difficult the daily journey is. The goddesses of compassion, the great healers, such as the galactic of the ancient ones, we can't just leave your needs up to these devoted servants on the path of compassion and healing. If we're going to be honest about the extent to which humanity needs intervention, all of us have to figure out a way in which the human being is given something that they can hold on to. Something that makes sense to them, that offers them hope in a way that's real, not in a way that we conceive of and understand. She has often spoke to us about this topic, but we never really considered how the issue of patience is linked to hopelessness, and how hopelessness breaks the link to the soul. We understand the need, the great need, for basic resources, for equality to be restored throughout the planet for all kingdoms of nature. We understand the massive interventions required just to allow the planet to heal. We see this bigger picture, and we are committed to developing solutions that we can implement with your support. But in seeing that bigger picture, we have sometimes lost sight of the individuals affected by each. We are not perfect. We are learning. We are growing. The information chain moves from us to you and from you to us. And we have said that repeatedly. We mean it. It was very difficult for us to entertain the notion that we didn't provide the care and attention for the being who we rely upon to the degree that she requires it. This doesn't mean that she wasn't open to receive it. And this doesn't mean that she didn't rail at us for not providing. But what it does mean is that we have to take the need for recognizable support into greater consideration going forward. You're not patient. You don't even understand exactly what it all means. But you're trying. And in that trying, in that growth, in that expansion, we can find a better way to bring the third dimensional human into fifth dimensional awareness. The raw, animalistic violence of the human being 10,000 years ago has evolved. There's still raw violence, but it has a different take to it. And there are just pockets of that. It's not the primary experience. You don't have people going around and chopping off hands and arms because somebody's unhappy with them. You've moved beyond that. But in some ways, you've become much more sophisticated by mentally castrating, not physically castrating, emotionally disabling, spiritually disempowering. And we've focused our attention on ways to address those issues, and we will continue to. But the power of love, the extreme power of love, must be delivered differently. And we're not quite sure how to make those changes happen, and what are the ways in which they can best be delivered to larger audiences. But we recognize deeply that there needs to be what you would call consolation prizes. And we're not talking about this from the sense of a loser. We're talking about this from a sense of a parent who needs to provide a child with a gift, a reward, a recognition of their bravery, of their courage, of their ability to succeed, of their willingness to overcome a challenge. Positive reinforcement in the ways that make sense to you. We did not come forward when she asked us these questions. We were silent. She didn't even feel comfortable asking them to us. And she had the right to ask those questions. And we were silent because we didn't know how to answer. But we are answering now, and we're answering it with your entire community, because she's not the only one who's had thoughts, issues, concerns. She never really wanted to believe that we could be oblivious, that we could be insensitive, because she recognizes our utter commitment to the highest good of all. But in that commitment to the highest good of all, sometimes the attention to each of the players that make the symphony come alive could be lost. When you speak of patience, you link a cause with an effect. When we consider patience, we're looking at timelines of millions and billions of years. The cause is so far from the effect that we are in the process, not in the beginning or the end. And because we are in the process, we don't understand or pay attention to the beginning and middle and end of an individual incarnation in a string of hundreds to thousands of them in which we participate. Okay, that's true. But it's also not okay that we lose sight of the individuals in the incarnations that still need compassionate care. We are speaking as the cosmic light collective. Trillions, zillions of beings, each having our own experiences throughout the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe. Each focused from our perspective on what we can deliver in massive timelines that are outside of your realm of linear experience. But if we are going to be really successful here, we're going to have to entertain that linear experience and understand to intervene in a workable way that provides the motivation, the inspiration, and the elevation of the human spirit, regardless of circumstance. Now, isn't that a goal for all of us to sink our teeth into? Metaphorically, we don't all have teeth. We commit to this minute level of service in a very different way today. And we ask forgiveness of those who have gotten lost in our enthusiasm, including the one we speak through. We will do better going forward with metaphorical eyes open as to the importance of effecting change within a human timeline that promotes soul awareness and soul empowerment as a physical experience of well-being. A new definition of collective collaboration. Throughout human history, you've had martyrs, you have religious sacrifice, you have cultural sacrifice, many of it born of egoistic means, and some of it born of misaligned and misinterpreted spirituality. Going forward in these 11 years ahead, purity, integrity, and commitment to service is what is asked of all soul-embodying human beings. Purity, integrity, commitment to service. The ego is not involved in this. The soul is. And the soul is always seeking to guide you to your highest good, often through very difficult circumstances. But what if we can find a way to allow that purity, integrity, and commitment to service to be infused with joy, open to possibility, and supported by love in real, effective human ways. And what if that lasts? It's not just a momentary, see, we'll give you this to get you through. But what if it lasts so that you can depend on it for your future? Not just moment by moment. You're growing enough that you can maintain a level of connection that allows you to feel these infusions on a regular basis. And as we learn how to deliver this consistently, it will change our relationship. It will begin to create that sense of the Garden of Eden within and around in a realistic way that is not conceptual. There is much to consider here, and there's much to learn, and there's much to do. And we have come to tell you that we are awakening to just how difficult this journey is for those who are already committed. And that we are aware of the taxing energy and difficulties that the path holds. And that we appreciate and value and honor your purity, your integrity, and your commitment to service. We know that you have had moments of joy, deep appreciation, extreme peace, and we are happy to deliver those moments. But we also recognize now that a continuous thread needs to emerge that provides realistic experiences of possibilities unfolding. And we are committed to providing that. With your assistance, with your informing us of what you need and how you need it, and when you need it by. It's not enough for us to say, well, you're learning a lesson. Now it's, how can we really best deliver that lesson in a way that will promote success with the least amount of struggle possible? You see, you're not the only ones growing and evolving. So are we. And so, let's enter a greater level of kindness to each other. A greater level of kindness. Recognizable support. And lasting joy. Let's focus on that. Even as we do all the big things that we do. And for all that you have struggled with and all that you have overcome, we are proud of you. We are proud of you. We don't take ownership for anything. We accept our participation. And we're proud of what you have done with it. There is much more ahead. And compassion will flow deeply, powerfully, just as it's flowing deeply and powerfully through the subtle bodies of the earth right now. That compassion and that kindness, which we spoke about kindness, gentleness, and wisdom last week, we're just applying that this time much more personally. Much more personally. You know, success is a great way to motivate another. And we've known that. And we've watched other worlds struggle with succeeding, and other civilizations struggle with succeeding. And in a civilization that has become an expert in suffering, to move into the expertise of redemption requires a compassion that holds within it joy. That holds within it joy. We need to find more of those avenues and bring them into the communities that need them the most, in ways that are recognizable to them. We will work on that. We thank you for your purity, your integrity, your commitment to service. We thank you for your honesty. And we thank you for teaching us how to be more compassionately aware. All relationships require development, and today we are developing a new level of relationship with each other. Thank you for being patient with us. Big breath. Feel your solar plexus and feel the appreciation, the gratitude, and the unconditional love that we are sending to each of you. And with that, we bid you good night, and we look forward to connecting next week. And the blessings are flowing.